If you grew up sheltered, you probably struggle with decision making and making your own decisions. And that comes from constantly being told what to do. If you know, you know. If you're sheltered and you're constantly told what to do, your brain associates approval with safety. So every time you want to make a decision, you're like, oh my God, I have to ask somebody. I hate this Rose. I hate this Rose. But this is why I'm creating these conversations to build awareness around it and to help you to unlearn the things that I'm currently unlearning and have unlearned so that you can feel more free. Because I feel free. I feel freer. I still got some ways to go, but coming up, I would constantly ask my mom for permission. I realized this through therapy, but I would even notice it within myself. It would either be my mom or my friends. I would always have like I always had like some type of business, right? Let's make it as simple as me picking a logo. This is my business. Okay? And this is like when I'm 16 through 20ish, like getting out of it, which I made another video on the breaking free part, but it's like that gray area where it's like you're in it, but you're not, but your mind is still there, right? I would have a logo. I would have three logos. I would X one logo out. Boom, don't like that. I would have one logo I liked, and I would have another logo. I would send it off to people and be like, which one looks better? Most of the time, the majority picked the one that I didn't like, right? So then, even though I liked the one that I liked, because everybody else liked the other one, I would go with the other one because I didn't trust myself. And what I've learned is growing up sheltered, you don't have trust within yourself yet because decisions have always been made for you. So if Zalia says Zalia liked this logo A, why would I go with logo B that I sent to 10 different people who are not running the business that I want the logo for? If y'all see what I'm saying. This is just an example of how it showed up in my life in just little ways. But this could also show up in big ways, like say a career choice, and you're like, say you're not good at making decisions, you're not good at trusting yourself. You will end up being a doctor when you wanted to be a content creator. A hard thing, obviously, to unlearn, but these are the things that can happen when you grow up sheltered because decision making is something you didn't get to master or practice. You were told this is what you do, this is how you do it, this is what you should do, and that's it. Now through therapy, which I highly recommend to everybody, I've been able to notice that I had to start making my own decisions, and it's hard at first because you're constantly going to feel like you're making the wrong decision, but sometimes you have to make the wrong decision, and guess what? Who says your decision, like who says it's the wrong decision? You live in this black and white, yes or no, good or bad, right or wrong, when that's not reality. But we live in that due to growing up sheltered. So now let me explain to y'all like how I was able to finally learn how to start making my own decisions. And I don't want y'all to ever think that I don't do something anymore because I just catch myself quicker and I'm just like very turned off by it. And I can't wait for you to reach a point where you feel the same because living your life and make your own decisions is such a powerful part to life. I went through a breakup from a 5-year relationship, which I will talk about soon. The 2-year period where I was in a very extreme isolation period. Funny fact, I was actually not talking to any of my parents. Yeah, I was in like a no contact with family. Like I was just felt so much shame behind that relationship. And I guess it kind of worked out for me because I learned a lot about myself within these 2 years. That's when I started therapy. As I was by myself for about 2 years straight, I wasn't talking to anybody. My ego and pride wasn't having me text anybody, even when it was things that I actually probably needed help with. Like I needed someone who actually lived life. I just took it to the chin. Like I just figured it out by myself. Very important part when it comes to learning how to make your own decisions is having a sense of individuality and finally stepping out into like make living your own life. Honestly, I feel like you need to be by yourself. I feel like growing up sheltered, you're constantly being like, do this, don't do that. Yes, no, right, wrong. And also that is something that I learned is that there's no right or wrong life book that we often think there is because of how we grew up. So that's another part of unlearning. A lot of things is unlearning. This is very hard. But I just want to give you the encouragement to keep going because as someone who can't even remember most of the times the way she grew up and the mindset I was stuck in, healing, consistency, repetition of doing the thing that you want versus what you don't want is the only way to make it out. But me living alone after not living with my past partner is what really did it for me because I was alone, like I just said, for 2 years straight. I had to make all my own decisions. I would go to therapy, talk about it. Even my therapist would clock me and be like, girl, I'm not telling you what to do. You need to figure out what you want to do. I'm going to help guide you to whatever decision you want to make. And that helped me because I started to lean on my therapist as like my mom or my dad of like, oh, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. She's like, no, that's not what I'm here for. And I respect that because that helped me to really learn to make my own decisions and not have someone to lean on. I don't think it's wrong to ask people from time to time, But you need to have that be your majority, is asking yourself, building that self trust within yourself, because that's pretty much all it is never having the opportunity to trust yourself and believe that you can make the right decisions. And because I did that for 2 years straight, I finally learned that I can make good decisions. Like, I'm here today, okay? So that means majority of the decisions that I already made weren't that bad. And guess what? Even if it's bad, you learn from it and you don't make that same choice again. And the last thing I want to say is that if you are still living in the place that you grew up sheltered, or with that toxic environment or traumatic environment, or just a unhealed environment, because most of growing up sheltered or in an overprotective household is due to the parents not fully being healed, having unresolved trauma within themselves. I just wanted to say that it's possible to build strength and resilience in a place where you still may be experiencing that. I don't want you to think because I still live at home, or because I'm still have close access to the people that made me feel this way, that there's no way you can heal. I'm not gonna lie and say that I felt the need to run and get out as soon as I could, but because a lot of people can't do that, I want to encourage you to still try. And I can tell you how. So if you're still living at home, for example, you could just start with little things like just simply not asking them for their input on something that you want to do with your life, and you making those decisions by yourself and then going through and doing them, even if they get mad. Because honestly, what I've also learned is you have one life to live. Once that knocks you in your noggin that you have one life to live, you move differently. I feel like you just have to let your parents be. They're gonna have temper tantrums. I feel like this is a great period for just building the muscle of resilience, which you need in life anyway. So that's why I also want to encourage the person that still lives at home or still lives in that environment, still fight. Okay, this is the last thing because this is a very long video. You do not have to tell them everything. You don't have to be like, hey, so I'm trying to be healed from growing up sheltered, so I'm just not going to ask you anything anymore. And because I still live here, it's kind of hard. So can you respect that? What you're going to do is start having these conversations with yourself, journaling, writing, going to a library, going to a park, sitting down, having moments, having time to yourself, just finding ways to have time to yourself, because this is going to be important if you're trying to learn how to make your own decisions and make those decisions. Stand on those decisions. That's the only way you're going to learn how to do those things. So stop asking others, start asking yourself. You're starting to build a record of self-trust for yourself, and there's going to be a day where you realize, how could I have not trusted myself? How could I have thought someone else knew better for me than me, in a way? That's what you will start to get to. But yeah, let me know what y'all think about this. It's giving podcast episodes at this point, but on the conversation of decision making, approval, things like that.